What if I told you that there was a way to play your PlayStation 5 games on the go just like a Nintendo Switch? You'd probably say, that's impossible! And you'd be right. While portable PCs have gotten more powerful in the last year, we're still a pretty long way out from seeing new console games operating at peak performance natively in a handheld form factor. But Sony has a creative new idea of how to solve that, at least for now. The PlayStation Portal, a dedicated streaming handheld built for remote play. Now, is this the next bright tech idea that you need to get in on right now? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, I'm Giovanni Colantonio, the gaming section lead at Digital Trends, and I'm here to answer a simple question today. Should you buy the PlayStation Portal? And for a lot of people, that answer is probably going to be no, but keep watching. I want to help you understand what this device actually is, what the benefits of it are, and where Sony actually falls short compared to some other similar devices on the market. Even if you think you already know this isn't for you, I want to make sure that we get into some of the nuances of this new tech landscape for you. So let's start by taking a look at the PlayStation Portal. Now at first glance, what you're seeing here might get you a little too excited. Its design would have you think that this is a true successor to the PlayStation Vita, but that's not the case. There are no real guts inside this machine. It can't play anything natively, you can't download emulators onto it, you can't even access an internet browser with it. All this device does is remotely connect to your PS5 over Wi-Fi and let you play it wherever you are. Now, wait a minute, can't you already do that right now? Yes, you can. For a long time now, PlayStation users have been able to do this through the remote play function. If you have a smartphone, you can turn it on right now and do most of what this device does at no extra cost. So why on earth, you may be asking, would you spend $200 on something like this? That's where we're going to get into some nuanced territory. If you've ever tried streaming a console game on your phone, you know what a pain that can be. It eats your battery in a heartbeat, the screen is usually too small for most games, and you constantly have to deal with text messages flooding the screen while you're trying to do a Destiny raid. Now what Sony is banking on is that all of that is enough of an annoyance that players will want a dedicated screen for their game streaming. And from that perspective, the PlayStation Portal mostly gets the job done for a pretty low price. The big benefit here is that you're getting an 8-inch LCD display that's bigger than either a Switch or Steam Deck OLED screen. It's not the most top-of-the-line display, but it produces bright colors, runs at 1080p, and has a 60Hz refresh rate. That doesn't add much weight to this either, as it barely weighs over a pound, making it more lightweight and comfortable than something like a Steam Deck. Now maybe the bigger draw here is that the screen is wedged between a DualSense controller that does everything you'd expect it to. Haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, a built-in microphone, it is all there. And that's important because Sony has been incredibly cagey with giving third-party developers access to those features. You can only get things like that on an official PS5 controller, so gaming on a Portal is truer to the console experience than connecting a Backbone or Razer Kishi to your phone. That is a big plus, even if it's kind of an unfair advantage. The only tricky part of that is how it replicates the DualSense's touchpad on the screen itself. There are two pretty small, awkwardly placed touch sensors on the screen that you need to keep your thumbs in. Since there's no way to adjust the placement of those in the settings, it's gonna take a little bit of time to get used to. And as for the streaming itself, it's impressive, so long as you have strong Wi-Fi. In my tests, I found that I was able to get about as good a stream as you can hope for. Spider-Man 2 ran pretty smoothly for me with only minor stutters and resolution drops along the way. Now I did notice that there was a slight delay when streaming. That was especially apparent when I tested some rhythm games like Lumines Remastered. But nothing here is really out of the ordinary for where streaming tech is currently at. But of course, I live in New York City with access to top-of-the-line internet speeds, so this very well may not be your experience. If you're unsure about whether or not you should buy one, try running a remote play test on your phone right now and see how it goes. Now look, all of this is great if you want a streaming machine like this. It's comfortable, it has a big screen, and it streams fairly well. But just because this is a simple concept doesn't mean that there isn't space to cut corners. and the PlayStation Portal slashes them. The weirdest omission here is that this device does not have Bluetooth support. The only way to connect a wireless headset to this is by using Sony's new PlayStation Link tech, which is only just starting to roll out to devices like the Impulse Explore earbuds. And those cost $200, which is the same price as the Portal. It's honestly kind of a deal breaker for a handheld. You can't really fix that with external adapters either, because the USB-C charger and headphone jack are very tightly squeezed onto the back of the system. Nothing will really fit back there other than a basic cable, and even if you could squeeze something back there, it might not work anyways. The USB port seems to only work for charging. I can't hook up another controller to it or AR glasses like the Legion glasses, which are usually plug and play. Sony does not want you doing anything with this device that doesn't go through its own products. And even then, the Portal is still lacking. There's a settings menu here that is devoid of options. There are only 2 controller settings. Basic PS5 features like button remapping aren't possible here. And since you can't really plug anything else in, including accessibility devices, you're just out of luck. Oh, but don't worry. Sony has included an airplane mode here, which is really useful on a device that only functions when you have Wi-Fi on. This is the bare minimum of what the PlayStation Portal could have been. It doesn't even come with a carrying case. In fact, Sony doesn't even make one for the Portal currently. All of that makes sure that Sony can keep this device at a very reasonable $200, but you'll almost wish that you could pay more for a Pro model. And you kind of can, if you look at other streaming devices on the market. This is the Razer Edge. It's a dedicated streaming machine that runs for $600, but for good reason. It's basically a full Android tablet strapped to a detachable Razer Kishi controller. It has a Snapdragon G3X chip inside of it, which makes it about as powerful as a Galaxy S22 Ultra. And since it's just running a standard Android OS, that means that you can use Remote Play, stream through the Xbox Game Pass app, download mobile games, or even install and run emulators. And you get all of that on a fantastic 144Hz AMOLED display. And this isn't the only device like that. There's also the Logitech Cloud G, which has similar flexibility and can even last up to 12 hours on a single charge. By comparison, the PlayStation Portal tops out at 4 hours pretty consistently. If you're willing to spend the money, you can get a great, dedicated streaming handheld with more features, more battery, and more flexibility. I mean, the PlayStation Portal can't even stream YouTube or Netflix. If you try to access them via your PS5, you get a message that says you can't do that via Remote Play. Seriously. So yeah, you probably don't need a PlayStation Portal unless you eat, sleep, and breathe PS5. But that doesn't mean that devices like this are totally useless. In fact, Sony had the right instincts here in creating a handheld that could solve a very specific problem. But the best streaming handhelds on the market right now go above and beyond that. I actually use my Razer Edge to play mobile games like Marvel Snap, and I've gotten emulators like Dolphin running on it too, pretty smoothly. Yeah, I don't get the DualSense features on the Kishi controllers when I stream Spider-Man 2, but that's a pretty small concession. Now, all of that said, PlayStation Portal still has one thing going for it. It's only $200. And at that price point, it's a plausible impulse purchase and a good big-ticket holiday gift for someone who already has a PS5. But if you're really serious about the idea of streaming your games so you can take them on vacation or play them in bed, it's really worth spending the extra money on something like the Razer Edge for a more fully featured device that you can get some real mileage out of. PlayStation Portal is good at what it does, but the bar for this kind of thing is high, and you don't have to limbo under it.